except for his mother's funeral whenever I was a young lady. And he just cried. And it was so great to have had that last moment with him myself. And I've got some videos on my phone that I haven't been able to retrieve and get them off, but y'all are welcome to watch them. He was laying there in the bed and he's talking, and the only thing he can talk about is every baseball game he's ever coached, and he sat there, and I'm going to tell you, yes, I was bored to death for hours, sitting there while he told every play-by-play, and it's on the video. So-and-so comes up the bat, so-and-so's on third base, out in left field, so-and-so. On second base, we got the bad guy, but the first base, we got the pitcher's nice, but he's not going to make it through the season. He's going to be kicked out. I mean, he just goes through the whole thing, and it's so precious because that's Uncle Melford talking to me. And then I have one about how he met Mary Ann, and he tells about, I said, well, can you tell me how you met your wife? And he tells about how he met her at Lee College. And then he also, there's a video there of how he tells about, he claims, and I believe him, but it's hard if you've never seen Uncle Melford on a Harley Davidson. He claims he drove a Harley Davidson motorcycle all the way across the country from California when he got out of service as a sailor. And that's on there. And he tells the whole thing about how he hit somebody and he had a wreck, and the car stopped, and it turned out to be a whole car full of girl cheerleaders that were going to a game. Nothing could have been better for a coach. So he told Mary Ann he hit the jackpot. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to let Paul and Patsy share what happened and memorialize Uncle Melford for us. And then Rachel's going to share from herself anything. And Rachel was my sister, and she took care of Uncle Melford during an incredible crisis situation when he had a heart attack. And she has a plaque that he gave her, thanking her, and it hangs in her home somewhere, but she can't find it right now, so she's going to tell you about it. And then after that, we'd just like to open it up and let anybody say anything and share memories, and then they'll be having some refreshments. So it's just a simple think about Uncle Melford, focus on him, and we're sending this back to Mary Ann and Scott. All right, that's it.
I took notes when this guy got up to speak because they were kind of leery. They didn't know him, but he knew Jim. And after you hear what y'all he said, you'll know that he knew him. He was a tennis buddy. And that's probably he was so strong with that arm because they said he was a finesse player. And this guy's name was Bo Whitaker, and they played 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And Mary Ann, you know how Mary Ann was, the dutiful wife, got up at 6 a.m. all those mornings, made him the same breakfast, eggs and grits and toast. That's all he'd eat. And then Jim would drive a whole hour from Sweetwater to Abilene, where they would play from 8:30 till 12:30. And the last one on the court every day was Jim. And he was the oldest one there.
He's carrying the boss tradition down, isn't he?
But this guy, Bo Whitaker, he could not believe how fast that Jim could run. And that was, a lot of people didn't know that was one of his loves as well as baseball and tennis, running. But when Jim would win, he was just ecstatic. But when he lost, he would jog over there. I mean, after playing that hard game, you know, he would still have that jog left. He'd jog over there, and with a chuckle, he'd shake hands, and it's like losing didn't matter all that much to him because he knew he had given it his all. And so Bo Whitaker said from that you can get that his philosophy was, whatever your hand finds to do, do it as unto the Lord. And he said that was Jim. And he said that he was a walking sermon because that was the philosophy he got. And Jim believed that we should honor our giftedness with grace and just leave the consequences to God. I thought that was so beautiful. I just had to write all this down. But Jim lived in the present moment, and when he talked of the mountains, he would weep. Did y'all know he loved it that much? I guess Mary Ann did, because she was constantly coming from Texas to the mountains. But Bo said that the grace of that man's Lord was evident in his life and living. And he said that when we all get to heaven, Jim's going to jog over there to meet us. He's going to give a little chuckle and shake our hand and welcome us into heaven. And his favorite songs were Who Am I? Because of Gene Bradley, you know, the blind singer from Union Road. Who Am I? And the songs, the words of that song is a testimony right there of the sacrifice that Jesus made on the cross. And then Just As I Am, and I thought, just as I am, that's an invitation to the altar. But he wanted it sung. So we got that little country singer, we played that tape, and she sang Just As I Am, and I looked around and I saw people were really considering where they were going to spend eternity.
Patsy, can you tell us about the funeral of
Where it was held.
yeah, and I understand the church was packed out, but can you tell about the burial? What he was buried in?
Oh, yes, he was buried in his baseball uniform. He was.
He was buried in his baseball uniform.
And it was at McCoy Funeral Home in Sweetwater. And he had requested they play Anchors Away at the end.
At the end.
It's called the Naval Hymn. I didn't know it was a hymn. And they do something unusual in Texas. The undertaker, or whoever, the funeral director, I guess is, he goes to the back. Well, first they open up the casket after it's been closed. And I thought, oh no, somebody's going to scream and try to get into the casket, because I've seen that done before.
Oh, yeah.
One of his cousins. But the funeral director lifts, just motions from the back row to start down the aisle, and they were playing Anchors Away, whatever the words are. And they would all march down. I thought, where are these people going? They need to sit down. I've never seen that before. So there they went by and they viewed the casket, and then each row did that, and then at the end it was the sweetest sight when Mary Ann and Scott were holding each other, and she said that was the first time that Scott had cried. But the burial was, let's see, it was in Sweetwater also, and really close to where Mary Ann lived, so she could visit it quite often. And one of the wreaths was a baseball course. Oh, you trying to get up?
That's sort of lonely.
Sorry.
She is a boss.
I was gonna say, that's what I was gonna say. That's a prime example of a boss. Uncle Belford in life, in spirit.
I was the boss.
And she lives with you, too.
That's where I get it from, because I've always changed my environment to suit me.
Yeah, that's Mike.
Well, it's good to see you here today. And I'm real sorry that it's the event that we are here for, but it's a time for joy, actually, instead of sorrow. And to remember the good things that Jim particularly remember about him. And it's something when you think about Clay Raines' husband, Flecker's daddy. We did his funeral on 7th Avenue. It hadn't really gone to the Garrison yet, but it was under construction, and we had to walk just on planks to get in because it was almost to the door, the new highway coming through there. And I can remember that real good, and Jim was there. And I remember the things that Lester had to go through with, and the pain. And I also remember doing his mother and sister's funeral when they had the wreck. And so I've been closely tied in with the Milford and his family over the years. And when I first went to 7th Avenue to restart the church, the first Sunday, I want for 3 people who's in here to stand who was there that day. You're one of them. That's one of them.
Yeah,
hear
I
that.
missed that Sunday.
Yeah, yeah. Patsy wasn't even there. We were
Patsy
married.
wasn't there. He actually said that he was leaving to go back and get married and bring back a piano player. That's how he said it.
Then I remember the years when my couch on 7th Avenue had a young lady there a lot of mornings when we were waiting. And she helped us when we did have a family, and it took 11 months till our first child was born. So we have a lot of good times with the Voss family. And to come here and have the opportunity to pastor this beautiful lady right here. Be your pastor for a few years, and then their daughter and her husband and the children. It's just a pleasure always to be with the Voss family. Jim, he received his master's degree in guidance counselor from Abilene Christian College in 1967. Served as high-speed radio operator in U.S. Navy 1950 to 1954. Won 5 battle campaign stars in the Korean War. Taught and coached baseball at South Gastonia Junior High for 9 years and won 4 conference titles. Patsy was down there for a couple of years during that period of time. And he's also school guidance counselor for Coolwood Middle School in Charlotte for 27 years, won 9 championships in baseball and softball. But that's in Mecklenburg County, where there's a lot of schools, and he just had a coaching heart. If you go to his house, I don't know, there is a book on every details of playing baseball. I mean, you know, what you do when you get the ball when you're on first base, you know where to look, and it just guides you right on through. He's survived by Mary Ann, his wife. They did meet at Lee College. I was at Lee College when I met my wife, but she happened to be in high school down in Wilmington, all the way across from Tennessee down to the coast. Scott was a son and wife, Lisa. Now Scott, my mother-in-law babysitted with him for about a year and a half maybe. And he and Sue Lane grew up together. And they were 4 and 3 years of age each. And they'd always smooch. You know how little kids every once in a while they do that. But
That's a boss trait, isn't it?
yeah.
Mike's not talking.
And I tell you what,
Boss gonna get
there's no mate that would have suited him any better. Because he was so boisterous and going all the time, and she is so shy and quiet, something like Fay Ring.
Yeah.
And so she gave him all the room and never did argue about his sports, because that was his life. And I remember while he was at Coolwood, that's when he had a heart attack on the field. His heart stopped on him 8 times on the way to the hospital. 8 times. They didn't think they'd make it. And I do remember him, every day I'd go there, and he was over there for weeks. And I remember one day, he asked everybody, real politely, how Jim can talk politely, to leave the room, but me. And that's when he gave his heart to the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And from that time on, he and Mary Ann